Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett. Thank you so much for joining us. Thursday marks the 75th anniversary of D-Day, where more than 9,300 Americans paid the ultimate price in the Allied invasion of France, an invasion meant to free much of Europe from the grip of Nazi domination. President Trump is spending this night in Ireland at his golf club in between two D-Day anniversary events. He was one of many world leaders who joined veterans in Portsmouth, England, Wednesday. CBS News White House correspondent Ben Tracy reports from Limerick, Ireland.
It is only fitting that the tribute to one of the most remarkable military operations in history took place on both land and in the air. Recreating part of that fateful day in 1944, warplanes dropped hundreds of parachutists from the sky, including veterans of the Normandy invasion.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation.
President Trump read the prayer that Franklin Roosevelt delivered to the nation on D-Day.
Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, the heroic servants, into thy kingdom.
10 D-Day veterans took the stage, representing both their fallen comrades and the many who have since departed. These humble heroes, their pace slowed by time, brought heads of state and royalty to their feet. Queen Elizabeth, now 93 years old, said she had feared the 60th anniversary, 15 years ago, might be the last such ceremony with living veterans attending.
But the wartime generation, my generation, is resilient, and I'm delighted to be with you in Portsmouth today.
After the event, the President and the Queen said their goodbyes, the official end of President Trump's state visit to Britain. But before leaving London, Mr. Trump sat down for an interview and was asked about not serving in Vietnam due to bone spurs in his feet.
Do you wish you'd been able to serve? Would you like to have served your country?
Well, I was never a fan of that war, I'll be honest with you. I thought it was a terrible war. I thought it was very far away. Nobody ever, you're talking about Vietnam, and at that time, nobody ever heard of the country.
The president says he's now making up for not serving by providing more funds for the military. This afternoon, Mr. Trump arrived in Ireland, where he met with the country's prime minister before heading to his golf club.
For more on this, CBS News White House correspondent Ben Tracy joins us from Limerick, Ireland. Ben, in that interview that was in your piece with Piers Morgan, the president also compared the Vietnam War with World War II. We always look for this in moments like this. Can you offer some context?
Yeah, so what the president said is he was kind of explaining, kind of downplaying Vietnam as a war of significance, and basically said that it's not like we were over there fighting Hitler and the Nazis. I think that might have been a way that he was trying to compliment the World War II generation, but obviously that's not something that you want to hear if you served in Vietnam. The president did say that he feels that he is now giving back, that he is serving in a certain way by providing more funds for the military.
Right, and I believe Piers Morgan asked, do you wish you had fought in Vietnam? And the president said he would have, but he thinks he's doing more now as president of the United States. And as you well know, Ben, because you're part of the trip, he's traveling, that is to say, President Trump to Normandy. But he spent part of Wednesday in Ireland, met with the Irish Prime Minister. Impressions of that?
Yeah, and some people may wonder why he's here in Ireland, and the real reason is that the president has a golf club here, so he does have somewhere to stay, and he's got a very nice plane that can bring him over here and take him back to Normandy tomorrow. But when he did get off the plane, he did meet with the Prime Minister here of Ireland, and the White House says the two mainly talked about Brexit, and that might have been an interesting conversation because, as we all know, especially after this visit to London, President Trump is very supportive of the UK leaving the EU. That is not something that Ireland is very supportive of, and that's mainly because they have a border up there in Northern Ireland that will be impacted by this. And there was this curious moment in this discussion where the president said, we have our own border issue in the U.S., and you have one here, too, in Ireland. And the prime minister kind of looked at him quizzically and said, but we don't want a wall.
No.
It was kind of an awkward moment between these two leaders.
Not only do the Irish not want a wall, they don't want a hard border, which would make all kinds of interpersonal travel and commerce enormously difficult. And that's one of the most bedeviling issues of Brexit. Am I right?
Exactly. A lot of people would tell you that if the UK leaves the EU, that Ireland really has the most to lose in that situation, basically because of this border issue, in terms of the movement of goods, the movement of people, how you basically would put a hard border up there. So imagine right now where you can kind of freely move across. If you really do have a border situation where you're showing a passport, you're needing a visa, those sorts of things, it becomes very complicated, especially on the trade front.
Now, Ben, let's talk a little bit about this VIP lounge thing. Now, I'm as big a fan of VIP lounges at airports as you can find, but that doesn't sound like the natural place, based on my experience, presidents meet other heads of state. There's a reason this came about. Help our audience understand.
There is, and I can tell you, having passed through the Shannon Airport today, that VIP lounge is not the cream of the crop in terms of VIP lounges at airports around the world. The reason they did meet there is because President Trump wanted to have this meeting at his golf club. The Irish government did not want to have the meeting at his golf club. They're not being specific as to why, but you can kind of see the optics there of what that would look like. They had floated the idea of doing it at a nearby castle. The president said, no, I don't want to do it at the castle. So the compromise was, my plane's landing at this airport. Let's just meet in the VIP lounge. And that's what happened today.
And of course, this whole trip started in the United Kingdom. Ben, give us a sense of the reception there writ large.
I think you'd have to say it's a bit of a mixed bag. You know, of course, there were protests. You would expect that. I don't think the protests were as big as they were the last time the president visited London, but certainly there is a lot of passion there against the president among some quarters. But I think you'd have to say that the reception amongst the royal family was generous. And the president has said that he very much enjoyed the visit, that he loved meeting the Queen. Again, he kept calling her a fantastic, fantastic woman. He said that he really enjoyed the royal family, and by all accounts, they were very gracious. And you also saw the president, in his defense, being very gracious with Theresa May, which is not something he has always been in the past. At that news conference yesterday, he went out of his way to compliment her, even said her negotiating skills were perhaps better than his. That is a complete 180 from what the president has said about her negotiating skills just recently. So it was kind of an interesting thing to see at the end. She is resigning her post officially on Friday. He was very complimentary as she's on her way out the door.
Ben Tracy joining us from Limerick, Ireland. Thanks so very much.
Thanks, Major.